Insider's doing a documentary on us, and they needed a little extra footage to fill in some blank spots, I guess. And they sent this guy out from Ashland who I've heard of and known about for a while. I've watched some of his videos on YouTube. He's another forager, and yeah, they sent out a foraging filmer. It's so cool. And he gave me his wild edibles field guide.
I don't want to move your phone, but I do want to mic this, so let's see if this will work. What did your family think about your decision, and what was their reaction?
I don't think that I told my family about my decision to voluntarily go homeless at first, because I didn't quite have faith that it was the decision that I was going to continue to be making. I thought that that if it sounded a little bit crazy to me, it would probably sound crazy to my loved ones. So I didn't tell anyone why I was doing what I was doing. I was like, I think that I pulled the card of like, oh, it just doesn't make any sense to be working 2 jobs, 3 jobs for the rest of my life, and just have a place to be able to come back to sleep in. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. And so I just pulled that angle. But really I was like, this doesn't make sense, and I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to like do something to better our situation that we're headed for.
You mentioned earlier, you said I would be of more service this way than another way.
Yeah, and I want to like...
Please elaborate on that.
Yeah, like I explained that I'm intelligently selfish. So that seems to be selfless, like, oh, I want to help out the world. I want to help out my community. But it's like, if you're intelligently selfish, you're going to be selfless, because it takes all of us, And so what could I do on my community level to bring all of us up, all of us to work together, and that like local community food stand, farm stand was the first idea, and the second idea was like, how can I improve the post-apocalyptic lifestyle for people.
What's more important to you, self-sustainability or trying to build a movement?
What's more important to me, self-sustainability or trying to build a movement? The movement that I'm trying to build is self-sustainability. It's community sufficiency. I don't think there's anything as self-sustainability or self-sufficiency. I think that the best that we can get is community sufficiency. It takes a village. The rams are just so conducive for this pulling. They have so much testosterone, and they have like all of the ligaments and whatnot in their legs seems to be designed to endure pushing their bodies up against something, because they're evolved to push their heads against each other and lean into each other, and that pushing into their head has created a stability in all of their joints and ligaments and whatnot that makes them very strong for pulling a yoke collar. Rams have a very flat front on their chest that makes them really perfect for putting a yoke breast strap across. Because they have evolved to press heads against each other, rams butting heads, they seem to have all of their ligaments and whatnot, and their legs and their muscles are designed optimally to be pressing into something. And so if you make that a breast collar instead of their heads, then they are, from what I've experienced so far, they are the most eager to pull a wagon out of any animal, and they seem to be have more strength to pull for their weight than any animal too, than a goat or a donkey. Those are the only 2 that I've tried besides a ram. But from what I read, it's, if I were to try a cow, it would be the same. An ox would be the same thing. They're very slow and cumbersome. A ram is just like, let's go, let's pull this wagon, and that's, if you're doing it every day, day in and day out, having them want to pull is the difference between it feeling like a sustainable endeavor, a sustainable activity. Like my donkey, I'm having to pull her like behind me, and she's wanting to pull, but she's just so slow that she walks behind me, and it doesn't feel right. Mm-hmm. I'm surprised that farm handing isn't becoming more of a movement. Like it just with the whole price skyrocketing of food, doesn't make any sense to me. I'm actually trying to talk people who are talking about getting farms. I'm foreseeing it being a problem for people who want to get farms. If you don't make more than enough money to uphold your land through an economic collapse, then you're just going to have you're going to fold and give up your land or have your land taken from you. So it's like the people that I hear talking about wanting to get land, which is increasing a lot of people, I'm actually trying to redirect them to farmhanding, because like, dude, if you're not going to have enough money, you're going to be struggling to pay your property taxes through an economic collapse, then you're just going to end up losing it in the first place. Why not just preemptively go to work trade for someone who already has their operation up and running and more sustainable, more likely to push through an economic collapse. The options have always been like be the feudalists or work in the feudalism, right? Mm-hmm. That's what a lot of people boil it down to. So having the wagon with all of the tools on it actually raises the mobility and the freedom of the farmhands to not have to feel like they have to stay on any one farm under any increasingly crappy conditions, because they have the power to move along. And not only do they have the power to move along, but with the wagons, they actually have equal or more power than farmers in a crap hitting the fan scenario, that will actually encourage the farmers to want to treat them better and so that they'll stay instead of wanting to take advantage of them in a feudalist type state, which is the first thing that a lot of people complain about in my lifestyle and what I advocate, a farmhanding movement. Well, that's just going to lead to feudalism. I'm like, no, not this way. If you have a wagon and you have all the amenities that you need, you're taken care of. You don't need anything from the farmers. They actually need more from you than you need from them. Like I have sheep milk that they're going to have less access to than I'm going to have access to whatever they're growing. You know, if it's just regular produce, then they're going to have a vested interest in trading with me and respecting me and treating me as an equal than if I didn't have that wagon. So yeah, I think that's an important thing to point out, because that's the first cynical thing that a lot of people, like a lot of this new generation that just wants to complain about everything and play the victim card on everything. I can't do anything, so I'm just not going to do anything. A farmhand is a handyman or a handy woman that helps out farms and cleaning out chicken coops, digging post holes, shepherding their sheep and protecting them, and hunting off the predators, and hundreds of things that could use help on a farm.
And so when you say most people would be better off as a farmhand than owning land, you're literally talking about like, come live on a farm, do the responsibilities, but you don't necessarily need to fork over all the money and get in debt
and be stressed out with that trying to pay off that debt. I think that's going to be increasingly more difficult for people who are currently able to buy their land. Yeah, technically they're on the fence, they can afford it, but if an economic collapse happened and they weren't able to run the game or make the money in the way that they were planning to pay the property tax, then they're going to have they're going to have to give up their land. So you might as well, if you're going to be on the fence about starting your own farm, I try to convince people to consider just going and farmhanding for someone who already has their sustainable farm homestead already established.
And as a farmhand, so you've been living out here for how long on this property?
Like 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah.
So as a farmhand, can you kind of go through some of your daily responsibilities and how long it takes?
So a farmhand, I think it's important to express that there is a spectrum of work expectation that a lot of people, when they think about the farmhanding option, they think they're going to be worked to death. And there is that option. You can work yourself to death for the amenities of being able to stay in their log cabin with their wood-fired sauna and their jacuzzi and everything, and have all these amenities. There's lots of people like this, but then there's this other end of the spectrum of people that don't even have farms yet, that are trying to transition into into living in their rural property that they just bought. Like my friend here, he just bought this rural property a couple years ago and is trying to move out here and start his farm, but he has to sell his house first, and his kids have to graduate. So it's actually a service in and of itself to just have someone being on those secondary or tertiary properties to prevent people from squatting those properties if they're really rural, or to prevent thieves from stealing the things that you're accruing on the property, waiting to put together your farm. So there's a spectrum of work expectation from working 6 hours a day like wolfing, that is in a lot of people's minds viewed as being too asking too much, and being too close to feudalism. And then there's on this end of the spectrum is literally no work trade, just being on the property and not creating a mess, and maintaining it and not degrading it is enough. And so I'm actually somewhere here in between, because my property friend here has bought this property a couple years ago, and he's been trying to move out here, and he got the chickens already, and he got the greenhouse, but he hasn't started. He doesn't have any other livestock out here. He isn't out here yet. So my work trade would be somewhere here in between. All I have to do is take care of the chickens. I change the water. I change the water daily or once every other day, and clean out the chicken coop once every couple months, and scrape off the perches weekly, and open up and close the greenhouse daily. And that's pretty much all I have to do in exchange for staying out here. And I don't use, all I have access to is water. I got solar. And I decided to go with dry erase because I learned that you can make your own DIY dry erase markers in a sustainable way by using any remnants of a paint can, mixing it with water, equal parts water, and then mixing that portion with equal parts hand lotion. And you're able to refill the dry erase markers and make your own dry erase marker. So I decided to try to go with this instead of a spray-on chalk or something like that. I need something to communicate with people.
You got your own moving billboard.
Yeah, this basic information. Yeah. In the morning time before the wind starts picking up and the air starts moving around, I like to try to work with my wool to felt, because it's very subjected to being blown around. So
let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do
So I gotta make my bed. Usually the first thing I do is make my bed, but I came and talked to you first.
I'm already distracting you.
Yeah. This is my my wearable wool sleeping bag. And I did not make it like this. I don't know why, but it just fits perfectly right there. I didn't design it like that. I'm so surprised, because when I was making it, I was like, oh, well, this is going to be really cool, but how the hell am I going to store this thing? And then when I realized that it stores perfectly like that, I was like, that actually is legit. That's not taking up any more space than a regular sleeping bag, so it's all good. And I use making some underpants for winter. And that's my pillow. And then during the day, it's my backrest. Dad. Yeah. And then this is my to-do list. Actually, it's not. And this is a sled harness that I'm going to start using once I rehome my donkey. It's yeah, I'll start keeping this on top of my ram's back strap in the yoke, and then if I see a hill ahead, then I just grab it, and it's Velcro, so I just am able to throw it on, and it'll be connected all the time to the. So I'll just go like that, and then I'll be able to move out into the front of my ram with his leash held behind me, and be able to help lead him and help pull. And I think that my ram and I working tandem like that, I think that will be a more sustainable option for other people to follow. A more affordable too, because you can get rams for free, and donkeys are like over $1,000, $2,000. Everything that I've ever invented, I've had to create prototypes of, and the things that there was already something that was being sold that was similar. If I could buy those models, it's so much easier for me to be able to wrap my mind around that item and creating a DIY version of it. So if the bought version is affordable enough, it's so much quicker to buy it, to be able to prototype and make a DIY version of it. It's so weird how like it's easier to make a DIY version of it if you buy it first, but it's like I'm not making the DIY versions just for myself. I'm trying to make them for a time period where everyone's looking for those things. So I'm not like I'm working with more of a time scale, and I'm working with more of a concern for other people's.
So how does that play into your social media use?
We need to utilize it while it's still relatively free, in order to organize ourselves to be able to leave it, to be able to wean ourselves, to create communities that are local and large enough that we can physically replace our social media with physical engagement with the people that we've met through it. That's the only way that I can see it being useful, is trying to use it to wean ourselves from needing it, but that carries with it the rate of its addiction level. It's becoming more and more addictive, and so we need to be aware that at some point it's going to become more addictive and less useful for organizing ourselves outside of its platform. And so at that point, we'll need to jump ship, so to speak, and just because it's just like the I view it kind of the same way as the natural flavorings that are in food are getting so dopamine, dropping, that it's becoming an avenue of addiction that is going to exponentially make it difficult. I'm seeing an exponential factor in both these. It's going to be difficult for people to want to produce their own food, because their own natural food isn't going to get them the dopamine drop that the food in the store is going to be giving them. So it's like we need to work with this time scale to wean ourselves as quickly as possible from the system before it starts to get any more alluring and addictive, because at that point we won't be able to use the energy from the artificial economy's food supply to power us in our learning curve to producing our own food. So it's like we see a time crunch, but I see it crunched a little bit more than most people because of exponential factors in the addictive nature of the artificial system.
How's your social media addiction?
I try to accomplish something or get something going before I pick up my phone and check anything, so that I don't start that off. Just like starting off my first meal with not being carb heavy. I try to, because then it spirals into me wanting more and more of that thing. Like if I start off my morning with social media, then I can't get off it. So I got to start something off like with this, do something else that's different in order to function throughout the day without being addicted to my social media as much, have it be manageable. get something else done first.
And what's your main use for it? Do you use it to make money? Do you use it to raise awareness?
I mainly use social media to raise awareness of the need and ways of becoming more sustainable, and to connect with other people so that we can help each other, bartering and work trading for each other and whatnot.
Do you use it also to link up like the next farm exchange, or does that just happen naturally as you're out in the community, people meet you?
I actually get probably equal opportunities from people reaching out through social media to stay or to work trade on their farms, as I do from the sticker that's on the side of my wagon. That's a sticker that's having a message on the side of your van or your wagon saying that you will work trade for produce has been a huge. That's how I got this job. I mean, it said that I was willing to work trade, and he was like, "Hey, you can just come stay at my place as long as you keep eyes on the place and you help out a little bit with the chickens and stuff, and you can stay out here." That's how I've gotten connected with at least half, if not the majority, of the places that I stay on, is through the messages that I write on the side of the wagon, communicating that I'm willing to work with people, work trade for people.
What do you hope that this video will accomplish? What's the ideal scenario?
It'll give people hope of seeing the options, alternative living options of farmhanding or property sitting, so that people will actually be motivated to connect with their local small farmers or wannabe small farmers in order to help them become better farmers and produce more food, so that we can have local food security and that we can have our local small farms remain financially afloat, so that they don't have to sell out their farms to what's increasingly becoming a monopoly on our farmland, because Bill Gates is the largest farmland owner in America. BlackRock is also one of the largest. So we have all these people that have an invested interest in monopolizing our food supply by also funding GMO crops. Bill Gates funds GMO crops and lab-grown meat and lab-grown milk and whatnot, and is advocating for blocking out the sun, is funding vertical warehouse farming and stuff like that doesn't need the sun. So obviously they're trying to steer our food supply into an artificial realm that they can control, and monopolizing the farmland is one of the first steps in that, obviously. So yeah, we got all these people that are buying up all the farmland, and I think that having a farmhand movement is more needed now than anything else, so that we can bolster local food security, bolster the financial stability of the local small farms, and so that we can keep everything diversified and not centrally controlled.
I love that. Will you just give me the 30-second version and start it with?
Sure.
I hope that when people watch this video, they will, or I hope this video will accomplish.
Thank you. I hope when people watch this video that it'll accomplish helping them to see the hopeful living alternatives that are farmhanding and or property sitting, so that not only can they have peace of mind, but that they can connect with those their local small farmers who need their help, work trading in exchange for camping or in exchange for produce, and have a local farmhanding movement happen that can help bolster the financial stability of the small farms, so they don't have to feel like they need to sell out their farms, because our farmland is increasingly becoming monopolized by financial interests. Like Bill Gates is the largest farmland owner in America, and BlackRock, and those are also the biggest funders of things like GMO crops and lab-grown meat and vertical warehouse farming, and so is anything we can do to help create a farmhanding movement, a free farmhanding movement. I think there's a local farmhanding movement, because we have a expensive foreign farmhanding movement called woofing. You know woofing?
I've done it in Argentina and Peru.
WWOOFing stands for working on organic farms, correct?
Yep.
So WWOOFing stands for WWOOFing stands for working on organic farms, and it currently is the go-to direction for anyone who's wanting to leave their purposeless job in the city and wanting to go do something along the lines of farming or learning how to farm. The only option that they have is something called WWOOFing, which is directing people into work trading abroad instead of work trading for their local farms that need your help. It's encouraging you to spend a bunch of money to go travel abroad internationally and help out farms that are actually farms that tend to not actually need your help because they have enough money to pay the membership fee to be on the WWOOFing website. It's like the farms that really need help, they don't have the $50 a year to be gambling with a WWOOFing website to be a part of it, to possibly be connected by work traders. So I actually think that the WWOOFing website did humanity a huge disservice by taking the membership route, taking the international farm handing route in order to be able to rationalize charging their members a fee because they're connecting you across the ocean. Because if they were just connecting you with your local neighbors, you're like, that's not as legitimate of a selling point to get people to sign up for a $50 a year membership fee to be connected with the people that are right down the street from them. So I just feel like we could have like a utopia right now of less people in the unsustainable cities and more people living sustainably, doubled up on the farms, on the small farms. And if they hadn't distracted the human desire to get out of it, so to speak, if they hadn't directed it to an international endeavor to sell memberships. Fucked up, dude. So fucked up. So I don't know. We got to create some kind of a local WWOOFing movement.
What do you think about climate change? Is it real? What causes it? What can we do about it?
So I think that more accurately, what we should be calling global warming, man-made global warming, is we should be calling it industrial society global warming, because I think that the words man-made were chosen in order to make us feel the brunt of the guilt for the destruction of the earth, when it's not us as individual citizens that are to blame as much as it is the people who have orchestrated society to be so unsustainable. I mean, the industrial society itself and all the waste chemicals that it puts off is and then them lobbying so that it's not as regulated so they can continue to do it more and more. That's industrial society global warming. It's not man-made global warming. And so it's like they call it man-made global warming, and then their solution is to tax us. The rich people who are coming up with this scheme don't even pay the property taxes that they came up with. So it's like they're not going to be paying this. They're going to be having loopholes for this, for these carbon taxes, and so it's just going to affect the poor. There seems to be a trend with wild edible influencers, I guess, or content creators.
I think people would probably classify me as one of those.
Yeah, it seems like that there is obviously is exploded in the number of content creators around wild edibles, but it seems like there has become an increase in the foragers' exaggerations of how good wild edibles taste, mm-hmm. and how much they're representing their life as being living off of it. wild edibles. It seems like there's almost like a tit for tat competition to like
who can forage more and
and,
better.
and who can make it seem like they're that it's like the perfect way, you know, like the solution to, you know, inflation and monetary slavery and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But it seems to me that like you touched on earlier on greens not having actual calories for the most part usually, and I think that's a huge part of what these content I think that's a huge part of what these foraging content creators are not communicating, is that everything that they're claiming is so awesome and useful and you'll be able to survive off this when crap hits the fan is going to be slowly starving them because it's too low in calories.
Yeah.
And I feel like the confidence that these foraging content creators are exuding through their videos is making people overly confident that they can survive when shit hits the fan off of just foraging if they have a good foraging book and they have a base of knowledge of the plants that are in it. They're like, oh, I'll be fine, you know, because all these other people are seemingly acting like they're living off of it. And I feel like that the content creators doing this are setting up their viewers to be not just disappointed, but like
for failure.
Yeah, starve.
Yeah.
And I think that if they weren't putting such exaggerated claims on their foraging, that those people would otherwise that the viewers would otherwise be putting a little bit more focus and intent into gardening, hunting, and raising livestock. The more serious caloric production means.
I think it's just kind of like you fake it till you make it. And I also, luckily, at an early age, I had the experience of living on the Pacific Crest Trail, 70% off wild edibles. And I saw that I could do it.
For a time period.
It's
the same thing as the veganism. Yeah.
It's not comfortable.
Uh-huh.
I've never said that it's comfortable. It's
Yeah.
like, it'll help you, but you're going to need more. You know, you're going to need, well, you're ultimately going to need meat, nuts, seeds, grains, or to walk your ass somewhere down where there's better food with higher calories.
That's the most responsible thing that any forager, I think, could be communicating to their viewers nowadays, is that foraging is awesome. It has its definite place. It's needed, but it is nowhere near everything that you're going to need.
Yeah.
And don't stop there, basically, is what I feel is the important, responsible message that's missing from literally all the foraging content creators that I've been
I hear what you're
lately.
saying, and I will rethink my own things an additional time and make sure that is more evident if it hasn't been evident.
Oh,
thus far.
that's actually what when I watched one of your recent foraging videos, the meal, I don't remember which meal one, but you said something that was a little bit more honest, and I appreciated it.
Yeah.
But then I think you followed it up with a little bit of an exaggeration, but you had a good mix of like a real talk and the, you know, trying to make it appealing or whatever, because
with this new cooking show that I started, I am trying to walk my talk more, you know, and just be as authentic as possible.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like there was an honest comment about, I think it was the texture of something. I don't know, maybe you were talking about
Lemon
mallow
balm,
or something. Yeah. And that's something that I don't hear any of the exact. Yeah, they're like, and they'll use the word like delicious and like, and this is amazing, and it's just it's becoming pretty cringe, you know, and dangerous for like for the people that they're misleading.
That's one of the reasons I advocate for smoothies to the extent that I do, because you can mask the taste of a lot of the bitter flavors with sweet fruit, and then you can still reap the minerals.
And it's more bioavailable. It's already like chewed up.
Exactly.
Yeah, chewed up better than we could ever chew it.
You're not going to live solely off smoothies, which a lot of people think is my message too, and it's not.
We need horticulture, we need gardening, we need hunting, we need foraging.
And I'm learning how to hunt right now. That'll be future videos. But
fishing and hunting, I would really like to pick up on that too. That'd be nice.
I'm 2 years in, creating drama all over the place by even mentioning it, but I realized...
Oh, 2 years into your meat eating or something?
Or just into hunting.
Okay. And how long have you been eating meat now?
I've stopped counting because, back in the day, I was like, how raw are you for how long?
so,
And after 22
you've been
years
turned
of
off.
that, I was just like,
You've been
I'm
turned
not
off of
counting
trying to
anything.
count.
But
Yeah.
it's got to be like 10, 15 years,
Okay.
something like that, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know
Yeah.
if you had gone into a meat eater in the last couple years and were getting flack from your friends.
No, I went into
freshly.
it like 15 years ago, and I'm still getting flack from my friends. Yeah. I'm trying to farm right now. I'm getting humbled. If you want to be truly successful, you probably have to have a team of people or a community of people that has all the parts fit together.
Their specialties.
And that's
around.
why we probably lived in tribes way back in the day, right? Where somebody would make the shoes and somebody else chopped the wood and somebody else grew the vegetables and somebody else hunted the meat.
The commune is too difficult to work out, and it doesn't have a history of working out for long term.
I've visited
But
hundreds.
yeah, but I think that's the nature of trying to fit people with different ideals and different rules and regulations of their own life, trying to fit them into a set of rules for one property, fit all those differences under one set of rules. It creates friction, and I think that something that humans haven't tried, but I haven't heard. I don't know a name for it, but I just call it decentralized communes. So like utilizing all of the benefits from partnering up with people in a centralized commune scenario. The benefits would be three, and they'd be the other members would benefit you by being able to trade things with them, food with them, and goods. It helps so that the other members can provide you with security, and it helps the other members can be a source for helping you out with labor. So labor help, security help, and bartering help. Those are the three main things that I can see are benefits of a commune that don't require all of the members to be living on the same property under the same set of rules that creates all the tension that those operations fall apart with in the past. And so if the members of the commune were on their own pieces of property, as long as those individual pieces of property were within close enough proximity that those three benefits wouldn't be discouraged or hindered. So the houses and the members would need to be close enough to be, for example, be within shouting distance so that if they were being attacked, they would be able to yell for help and the neighbors would be able to hear and help them. Or if they needed help jacking up the tractor because it just popped a tire or something like that, they can holler out, and it's efficient enough to help each other out, as efficient as if they lived on the same property.
Are you not describing farmers in America in the 50s and 40s and before? Living on adjacent pieces of property.
Just being neighbors.
Yeah, shouting each other for help.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
I live in West Medford right now, and that's kind of what we have going.
That's exactly. But we need a word for the dedicated cooperation and teamwork of different properties within that close of proximity. Like we know that thank you for pointing that out. That was how we just interacted when we used to be farmers. It was just neighborly, but it no longer suits us to just refer to it as like the neighborly farmer movement, or something like that. Yeah. Nowadays we need stuff, new names, or something to get behind in order for anything to take off as a positive movement. If you have any ideas on how we could reframe it, rename it, or bring back a name, if you know of a historic name for any type of a decentralized food production means.